first victim. She grew up on the main line, but still decided to stop dyeing her hair about 10 years ago. She now lives happily in Ambler and with her husband and daughter in gray hair, or as she likes to call it, silver hair. Please welcome Ms. Emily Cohen.
Pressure being number one after the teacher of the class and a pro. Mike's a pro. Last summer, my husband and I took a road trip. We drove cross country, and the scenery was just spectacular. But I noticed along the way, there must have been about 50, 60 of these crucifixes, these crosses, and they were ornately decorated. They were just gorgeous, and they were shimmering in the sun. And I'm wondering, what are these? My husband told me. These are memorials. These are shrines that people have set up for their loved ones who've died in car accidents. And I'm thinking, I just saw 50 or 60 of these. What is it? Don't Jews die in car accidents? The other thing I noticed about all of these shrines and memorials, there are teddy bears all over the place. There's something about our culture when someone dies, we feel compelled to leave a teddy bear at the place that they maybe were murdered or died in a car accident. I mean, the ancient Egyptians, they had it right. When their people died, they buried them with jugs of wine. They sent them to the afterlife with essentials and delicacies. I can tell you something. If I have a shrine, I don't want a teddy bear. I want dental floss. That's something I always forget to pack when I take a long trip. One of the other reasons why I really, really like to take road trips, I have this obsession with personalized license plates. When I get behind a car and I think that that plate is trying to send me a witty little message or a secret message that only the person's spouse is supposed to know what it means, I get obsessed. I have to figure it out. Well, last week, I was driving up in West Philly. I get behind this Toyota. I can't figure out what this license plate means. I'm going crazy. I start driving, following this guy, and tailing him down Market Street. I'm in Center City. I'm heading across the Ben Franklin Bridge. The next thing you know, I'm on the Atlantic City Expressway. I'm tailing this guy. Finally, 15 miles later, he pulls into a truck stop. I pull up right behind him. I go up to his window. I say, "Buddy, I've been following you for 15 miles. What does your license plate say?" "I don't know. It's a rental." Now, I'm a lawyer. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a lawyer. And everybody always seems to call me to get a referral for a CPA or a doctor. Everyone seems to think I know the best professionals in town. Well, I got a call the other day from an old client. Very sad situation, actually. He called me and said, "Emily, I've just been diagnosed with a brain tumor, and I'm going to have brain surgery. I need you to refer me to the most competent, the top of the line, the best neurosurgeon in this city." And I'm thinking, you just told me you need brain surgery. You think I'm going to refer you to an incompetent, mediocre neurosurgeon? In my spare time, I like to teach English to recent immigrants to the U.S. So I teach English as a second language. And we're right now working on the unit that has to do with clothing. And there are some words that I just find so annoying, they just rub me the wrong way. Panties. I don't get it. Boys, they wear underwear. Men wear underwear. But women, girls, something happens in a girl's life. I don't know if it's when she gets her period, I don't know, but suddenly we don't wear underwear anymore. We wear panties. Now, I can understand transitioning from an undershirt to a bra. We grow breasts. But the last time I checked down there, things have looked pretty much the same for the last 50 years. Something else, we're also working on phone etiquette. I'm easily annoyed, as you can tell. I cannot stand it when I call someone on the phone, I'm having a conversation, and the person says, "I'll let you go now." let me go? I called you. I'm going to end this conversation. You're not going to end this conversation. Another thing, when people say, have a nice day. I was in Target 2 nights ago, 10:30 at night, pitch black. I'm checking out at the cashier. The cashier says to me, have a nice day. And I'm thinking, what do you think, I'm in China? It's 10:30 at night. I'm going to be in my PJs in 15 minutes. My day is over. Now, I think it's important to have good manners, of course, and so I think it's very nice to say, have a good day. I mean, that's a very pleasant thing to say. But I ran into a situation last year. I went to a proctologist for the first time. It was amazing. This doctor schedules patients every 15 minutes. Do the math. Do you know how many buttocks he's looking at in one day? When I left Dr. Lipshitz's office, I just could not bring myself, after he examined me, I just couldn't bring myself to say, have a nice day. I have a background in anthropology. My undergraduate degree is in anthropology, and I've always been interested in primates. And there was a really interesting study, I think it was out of Chicago, where primates, if they were put in very large spaces, their sexual desire would just skyrocket. They were mating like crazy. There was something that they just couldn't prevent mating. When they were put in a small space, no desire at all, no mating. When my husband found out about this study, he suddenly decided he wanted to expand our master bedroom. On Wednesdays, I always change the sheets in our house. I love coming home after a really long day at the office, taking a shower, wrapping myself up in wonderful, crisp, clean sheets with a good book. My husband, he has other plans. He wants to have sex. There's something about clean sheets and sex. He becomes this sex-seeking missile when it's Wednesday and there's clean sheets. I'll tell you, the last time I came home from a vacation, I was limping and exhausted. They change the sheets every day. After 28 years of marriage, I'm tipping the maid not to change the sheets. Thank you very much, you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear the trials and tribulations of Mr. Stephen Wolf. Stephen Wolf is here.
How's everybody? Good. The reason when Mike asked what I should have as my intro, Trials and Tribulations of Steve Wolf, was because, and not to think that my life has been that drastic, it's just that for very interesting things, especially family related. And I'll give you the starter. For the first 6 years of my life, I actually shared a bed with my brother. I have a brother that's 4.5 years older than me, Phil. He's not here tonight. The family's going to be here tomorrow night. Friends are here tonight. Or I'll find out if they're friends or not. So basically, what I thought I was is every morning I woke up and there was this puddle that I was on top of. And I was the family bedwetter. I just couldn't believe, and finally, you kind of get used to that. My relatives were talking about it, and everybody would, it was embarrassing. Well, then my mother decides to change things up a little bit. She goes out and actually buys us 2 beds, something she should have probably done years ago. And a miracle happens. I wake up the first night after sleeping in the bed, and I'm dry. I said, Mom, did you get some kind of special bed? No. Well, what happened was, my brother became honest with me. my brother was wetting the bed every night. And he was taking me and putting me in his mess. And every morning, I thought I was a bedwetter. Now, I said to Phil after he actually told me that, and I didn't say it, but I'm making this part of the routine. It's fun. I feel good about that. I said, Phil, paybacks are a bitch. And so what happened was, I ended up, I found out from Phil later, he told me the story, that I actually would sleepwalk at night. And I got every move right that ended me in the bathroom. And then I would, pee and go back to bed. Well, apparently this night I got up on the wrong side of the bed. And I made all the moves, but I ended up in the hallway. And according to my brother, as he tells the story, he says, Steve, you were standing there like all groggy, and he's yelling, Steve, don't! And while he's doing that, I proceed to pull my pants down, turn over to him, and pee all over him. So paybacks are a bitch. One last story about Phil. Phil really wanted to go to overnight camp in the worst way. And one of the cardinal rules about overnight camp is you can't wet the bed or they'll send you home. So he spent nights not going to sleep. He was traumatized by it. And finally, he came up with what he thought was the solution. He put Scotch tape on the tip of his penis. Obviously that did not work, and he was sent home from camp. So that's the beginning. Now, even going further back to the beginning, my mother, she had 4 brothers and her grandparents, her parents, and all the families of the brothers, and including my family, we all had a family bakery business. She gets married to my father, who's also part of the business, and they have my brother. And then 4 years later or so, she gets pregnant with me, and she wants a girl in the worst way. And I'm born, and it turns out there were 13 births that night in Mount Sinai Hospital in South Philadelphia. 12 girls and me. Now, I'm telling you before I say this is the truth. 14 years later, we moved from South Philadelphia to Northeast Philadelphia. And I'm going to a birthday party for a girl I met. Her birthday happens to fall on the same day as me. Oh, I missed one part. My mother wanted to change my name to Stephanie. Now this won't sound good in the joke, but try to think back a little further. So anyway, I go to the party, and I'm talking to the girl's mother, and I told her where I was from, and I told her I'm born on the same day as your daughter. And she says, wait a second, you're Stephanie, and your mother didn't want you. Thanks. Yeah, that was, so this was a trial and tribulation. I think with all these back things that were happening to me, I actually, I think it came out all right. I hope. Now, here's a friend. Thank you, Stuart. No. Now, getting back to my brother also, my brother was one of the last people to have polio. And when he was 14 years old, my parents were always looking for some way to help him, improve his situation. And they had him have a surgery. And this surgery, after the surgery, they put a metal pin in his arm. He had a 50-pound plaster cast on that started from his waist, that went up through his arm, and there was a post between his arm and the side of his cast. So, as creative as we all were, and it was during the summer months, we had to think of something to do, so we started our life of crime. There was a department store called Bargain City, and I don't know if any of you from South Philadelphia remember that. And we used to go into the store. I was the bag man, and I'd go buy a record, Then I'd stuff 5 more records in the bag, walk out to the store and stick them in first cast, between the stomach and the cast. So, now, that life of crime lasted about 3 weeks. So I'm walking out of the store and I've bought the 1 record and I've got the 4 others in the bag. And as I'm walking out of the store, I get tapped on the shoulder and it's the store detective. And I can still see my mother sitting there crying and my brother's crying that he led me into this life of crime. And the most ironic part of the entire thing was the record that I actually bought was named Straighten Up and Fly Right. Now, I'm going to go into some other, I'm back in South Philly, still there, and I meet the love of my life, Shelly, who's not here tonight. She will be here tomorrow night, but this is going to give me license. I don't want any of my friends or anybody else to talk about what I'm going to talk about tonight, because I'm going to definitely alter it tomorrow night. And basically, she's a great gal, so first I have my bachelor party, and we go to a place that used to be the Troc. I'm sure you folks know it now. It's the Trocadero. It's a dance club. And that night, we have the headliner was a stripper named Miss Wow Wow. I'm not making this up. Now, can you imagine Miss Wow Wow is advertised as having 54 double Ds. The problem is it came along with a 60-inch waist and a butt of the size of Mount Rushmore. So, then, let's see, where am I back here? One other thing about a bachelor party, because one of my friends are here tonight, and this joke came from Mark. We're at 30 years later, we go to a bachelor party for a friend of ours get married for the 3rd time. Now things are a little more sophisticated now. We're at Lila's. And sure, there were no Miss Wow Wows in there, that's for sure. Well, we're sitting there, and Mark and I are sitting there, and there's a woman, that she's on a stool that's spinning around, not too much bigger than this stool. I don't know if she had the balance to do it. And she didn't have any clothes on, and she had a beautiful figure and a beautiful derriere. And
she was a guy.
No, no. See, I'm giving you the line and you're giving me a hard time. Okay. It was, I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful, And I finally said to Mark, walks over at me, and he leans at me and he says, "You see that? Poop comes out of that." Now this is the part about Shelly. I love her to death. She's a great woman. She's the love of my life. But she, in 42 years of marriage, I have not owned a car that hasn't had a damage to it, and some very critical ones. Thankfully, she's all right. But basically, she has, first time, she gets a new car, she has an accident, she takes it to be repaired, she gets back in the car, gets into an accident driving home from the body shop. We had, I was listing them out on this paper, all these different cars, and I figured one, I was going to try and really see if I could capitalize when I went to go to sell it. We had an 86 Saab with an 89 rear and a 91 front. So, now, we also had 2 cars, I don't think you can make this up, 2 cars that we leased, and we had the inspection and at the end of the lease, and the next day she got in an accident with both cars. So I finally came up with a solution. Unfortunately, she was not hurt in any of them. But I finally came up with a solution. I'm working with an engineer to see if they can make the car with external airbags. Okay, where do I want to finish here? I have to tell this last story about my sister Norma. Norma's a great gal, very gullible. And Shelly and I were going on a vacation to Jamaica, and we ran out. I needed a bathing suit. We ran out that Sunday afternoon to the department store, and it was pretty empty. The store was about to close. And she And Norma and Shelley go and get a bathing suit for me to put on. A red Speedo. So I go into the men's room, I start to change, I put the Speedo on, but I also put the 2 socks that I had in there. Now I look like I have elephantiasis. And I walk out, and the first thing that my sister says, I say, being gullible, she looks at me and she goes, "Stephen, I didn't know you were so well endowed." And of course, Shelley had a very quick answer. He's not. Because her goal in life is to make sure that neither one of my heads gets swollen. And with that, I'm departing.
All right, one more time for Stephen Wall.